Football Podcast, joined as always by Clinton Boring. My name is Ryan Satkoviak. We, Clinton, are almost there. RIP. College football season is almost over. Well, from a regular season standpoint, from a chronology standpoint, we still have like 5.5 months to go because the fucking playoff is so sparsed out. But there's 1 week left of the regular season. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
Football-wise, I'm great. Otherwise, I feel like poo. And I'm not excited that I have to go back to work tomorrow. I have been cold. I've been hot. I've been stuffy. I've been snotty. The good thing is I've been nice, so Santa should still bring me presents this year. So, been a good weekend. Goes fast as always. We got the Christmas lights hung up outside, which was nice. So that is done, and it was done in warmer weather than what the coming weeks, I'm sure, will be to bring. But it's exciting. We are in the final week of the regular season. Rivalry week, some big-time matchups across college football, but including 3 pretty big rivalry games. Well, more than 3. Goodness, Clinton. Multiple rivalry games within the Big Ten that we covered this week. Ryan, how are you?
Well, they finally decided to. I don't know what the deal is on Thursday. Because I think they used to do the Egg Bowl on Thursday, which was really cool, and then they kind of stopped doing that because they didn't want to go against the NFL. But the Friday slate this week is kick-ass. There are so many good games on Friday. There's so many good games on Friday all day, and I'm really excited for that. That's going to be fun.
Do you get Friday off?
Yeah.
Nice. Good deal.
And it's going to be I don't know if it's because like the algorithm is just fucked up, but I can't remember like the online discourse around the playoff being this disgusting last year. So I'm just ready for that to be over too because I'm fucking tired of reading it.
Big time answers this weekend, man. Big time answers.
Yeah, I don't know that we're not going to get any on Tuesday because the top 14 teams all won, so I can't imagine unless they move Oregon above Ole Miss that there's going to be a whole lot of mobility there, but that's neither here nor there. It's not worth talking about because there are still 2 weeks that are coming up. I
think the biggest one is it's just a side piece is whatever happens with Lane Kiffin, and if this LSU stuff is for real.
Well, that's my hot take. Is I think they're going to move Oregon, and this wouldn't be undeserved. Like I think they're going to move Oregon above Ole Miss because they just beat the shit out of USC. But I also think it's going to be a precursor for if Ole Miss loses the Egg Bowl and then a day later Lane Kiffin says, I'm going to LSU, then the committee is going to say, well, we're not putting you in the fucking field then.
100%. Which they'll bitch about, but I don't want an interim coach
a
two-loss team when there are multiple other two-loss teams.
Well, for sure. But also, too, it's not like Ole Miss has a fantastic resume.
Mm-mm. We'll see what happens. Maybe this is a ploy by Kiffin to get more money from Ole Miss.
I think that's going to be the funniest thing is Florida thinks they've got him. LSU thinks they've got him, and then he ends up not
get a
going
$100 million deal from Ole Miss.
Yeah, right.
And all he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, Clinton. If they lose to Mississippi State, this is not a 10-2 playoff resume. They did beat Oklahoma. That's it.
Blew the game against Georgia. They had Georgia.
They beat LSU by 5,
which is not impressive this year.
Their non-conference schedule was Georgia State, Tulane, which could end up being an okay win. Washington State and the Citadel. In conference, you got Kentucky and Arkansas, who are both awful. South Carolina's awful this year. Florida's awful this year. Mississippi State's not good this year. That is, if you go 10-2 with that, no thanks. Pass. Well, especially if your coach leaves too. I think, like, in a vacuum, that's a perfectly fine resume. But
would suck for the team.
Oh, for sure.
But
for sure. And I mean, I feel bad for them too that they're having to go through this fucking circus the last week of
100% when you're on the cusp of your first playoff appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got your coach doing this
shit. Especially for Lane Kiffin, who's not a playoff coach.
Yeah.
Never coached in a college football playoff. And this dude, we're treating this dude like he's Kirby Smart. I don't get it.
No appearances in an SEC title.
I'm sure the discourse around him will be perfect.
I kind of want it to happen just to fucking see the fire go up.
Will be funny. But we have our own playoff stuff to talk about. And before we get to that, since we have a special show tomorrow and Clinton can't do his normal Monday things, Clinton, shit, that's on me.
Rolling, 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 rolling.
could have teed you up perfectly, and I blew it. That's on me.
It was a mulligan for your golf game. Roland Player of the Week, Week 13. We are going to do an ITP first. We are going to have two. And I know Jeremiah Love, who is number one here, 8 carries, 171 yards, and 3 TDs, is 100% deserving for the smashing and squeezing of the Syracuse Orangemen that he did. Congratulations, Jeremiah. This is now your second or third time as ITP Roland Player of the Week.
I believe it is the third.
But we're also going to give it out to a guy who set a record and also had almost as big of a game. Katron Allen, 25 carries, 160 yards, 2 TDs. He is now the all-time leader, rushing leader in Penn State history. Currently stands at 3,954 yards, passing Evan Royster's 3,932 yards, which was set back in when I was a senior in high school, 2010. So congratulations, Katron Allen. Hell of a season, hell of a career for you. Hell of a season from the standpoint of running the ball, not the way your team obviously wanted to go out. And then again, shout out Jeremiah Love, multiple repeat offender in the Roland Player of the Week, and continues to boost his Heisman campaign.
He is now number 2 in Heisman odds, Clinton.
Behind Mr. Mendoza.
My plus 4,000 ticket on him is looking pretty good right now. Yeah, Mendoza's the runaway favorite right now. I think he's like minus 105.
The problem is it's a quarterback award. So for Love to do it, I don't know. Mendoza's going to have to look average against Purdue.
Here we go.
The Big Ten
I
championship.
have the scenario because I don't know, like unless he throws for like 600 yards and 7 touchdowns against Purdue, I don't know that there's anything that you can do against Purdue. You could, to be fair, you could say the same thing about Jeremiah Love against Stanford.
No.
But unless he goes like completely off against Purdue, his season stat line, like he's going to end up with like 38 touchdowns, which is a great season. It's not like we have these quarterbacks who are out here. Like everyone's like talking about these quarterbacks who need to be in there. And they're like, well, if Ashton Genty didn't win it last year, why should a running back win it this year with less stats? It's like, well, it's not like the quarterbacks are out here having Joe Burrow 2019 seasons or Kyler Murray 2018 seasons or whenever he won the award. But the scenario I concocted in my head is he has a game against Stanford like he did against Syracuse. He's at 1,300 rushing yards right now. He's got another 300 yards receiving. So that would get him to around like 1,750 all-purpose yards, like 23, 24, 25 touchdowns. That's a fucking great year for a running back. That's a fantastic year for a running back. You need Mendoza to not just completely light up the stat sheet against Purdue, which, I mean, he's probably capable of doing, and Cignetti's probably going to let him do it because it's Purdue. But you need Sayin to continue struggling. Continue struggling is not the right word. You need him to not have a great statistical game against Michigan, and then you need the Big Ten title game to be like a 20-13 slobber fest where it's won because of the defense and the run game, and then everyone's coming out of that game being like, well, we're not really impressed with either of these quarterbacks. Let's go to the running back. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. What did Henry have the year he won it? He had 2,000?
I think he had like 1,700, but I think he had like 29 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Hold on.
He's a monster. So, you know, when you look at something like that for Love, it's very similar when you look at something like for Devonta Smith, who won the Heisman as a wide receiver. You just have to be.
Oh, yeah, he did, Clinton. He also had 400 carries.
Oh, my God. And he's still trucking in the NFL, Ryan. Jesus Christ.
He had 395, and this includes the playoff, the 2 playoff games, 395 carries, 2,219 yards, 28 touchdowns.
Freaking monster, dude. Apparently, I'm blanking on his name right now. This kid in Tennessee who just played in the Tennessee State playoffs, like 600 yards and 6 TDs the other day. He's like Derrick Henry 2.0.
That's crazy.
That's absurd. Ohio State and Tennessee are apparently in the running for him. There may be other teams too.
I don't think I ever conceptualized this. 395 carries in a season is diabolical.
Do you remember Eno Benjamin from Arizona State?
Yeah.
They gave him like over 300 plus the year before he went. He like 300 plus multiple years in the NFL. He was a good back, but they're like, yeah, you got too much mileage on you. You're like a 6th round pick.
Even Genty, well, he had one last game, but even Genty didn't hit that many carries last year. He had 374, 1,600 yards.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing, too, with Genty is it's still a Boise State running back. There's still going to be people who aren't going to vote for that because they have a stick up their ass about the G5.
Yep. We also look at Love, 8 carries for 171. It's not like he had 25 carries for 171.
Yeah.
It's 8 carries. So his yards per carry is amazing. His explosive ability is amazing. He is RB1 easily in this upcoming draft class. Not that that should matter with your Heisman vote because it's what you do in college, but
Mm-hmm.
I think he is easily, again, people are arguing that he's easily better than Genty. Maybe Genty with Notre Dame's offensive line might have also been better. I don't know. I can't tell you that. But Love is just, he's on another level right now. And
Well,
he absolutely deserves to be in New York for consideration.
I think if Genty played for a Big Ten or an SEC team that made the playoff last year, he would have won the Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hot take.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think there's the people who, like, I know like Boise State is not like head and shoulders above talent wise than other teams that they're playing, but you're still going to get the people who are looking at that saying, we're doing it against Colorado State and UNLV. And even though you did it against the best teams, you played as well. We're still not, we're not giving you credit because you didn't do 12 games of it against a quote unquote P5 schedule, which is a ridiculous argument. But you guys have seen some of these motherfuckers who vote for the Heisman where it's like Donald McJefferson, who's 750 years old and hasn't watched a college football game in 14 years, but had a Heisman vote because he voted for the award back in 1972, who just sits there and is like, Boise State, I'm not going to. Anyway, there's too many people who have a Heisman vote. That's my point from this.
I agree.
Anyway, we'll talk more about this in the coming weeks when it becomes more pertinent and we have a full data set. But let's get to the games this weekend. The big one, Oregon 42, USC 27. SC got ahead early in this one, Clinton, and then tied it early in the second quarter. But really, Oregon kept them at arm's length for really the rest of this game. Went up 2 scores at the end of the first half, and then in the second half, whenever USC scored to get within a touchdown, Oregon answered on the next drive. Obviously, the big play in this one was that Malik Benson punt return touchdown early in the second quarter. That was followed up on the following drive with Oregon intercepting Jaden Maeva for the first of 2 times in this game, and then Oregon then took it down to score to get that 2-touchdown lead. And then SC missed a short field goal at the end of half, which kind of killed a little bit of momentum. Even though this was a 2-score game, Clinton, in the final margin, SC had their chances in this one. It's not like it was kind of like the Notre Dame game, even though the score maybe got away from them a little bit at the end. It's not like, I mean, they were chasing it, but it's not like they were, having to play catch up the entirety of the game. Oregon had a turnover on downs near midfield at their first drive of the second half. You're SC, you're sitting there thinking like, hell, hey, this is our opportunity to get back in the game. But then Maeva gets picked off again. And then, again, each time SC did score in the second half to get within a touchdown, their defense could not get off the field on the following drive and gave that right back. Yeah, man, did you see I don't remember did you see the question that Lincoln Riley was asked after the game? I don't remember the exact verbiage of it, but I think it was an SC guy, but he was there as an independent journalist covering for someone. Basically asked Lincoln Riley about the pre-games, the signs on game day where it was Oregon fans saying, extend Lincoln Riley. And the implication was, why should the SC fan base trust you to get them over the hump when you haven't? He didn't overtly, I don't think he overtly said this, but the implication was, why should the SC fan base trust you when you haven't shown the ability to win this type of game? And he's like, well, that's the stupidest fucking question I've ever heard, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't think it's an unfair question. I get that's maybe not the medium to ask it. Maybe that's kind of a midweek press conference question. And again, if you're there as a stringer, you're not going to necessarily have the opportunity to ask that. But again, it's another road game against a ranked team where Lincoln Riley's teams come up short. And Clinton, the common theme in these games is they'll get their yards through the air. The passing stats will look nice at the end of the game, but they get dominated on the line of scrimmage on defense, and they cannot run the ball on offense. And both of those things rang true again in this game.
Yeah, 55 yards on the ground, 1.9 yards per carry. That is not going to do you very well, especially when the opposing team. We talked about this Ducks run game, 179 on the game, and they had a 7-minute time of possession advantage because of them being able to run the ball and extend drives. Well, Ryan, it just doesn't get worse there for Mr. Lincoln Riley. It gets worse for the Trojan fans in the whole, as USC has now not won in Eugene since 2011, and they've lost 4 straight to Oregon. And for the 3rd time this season, they've lost to a ranked opponent on the road: Illinois, Notre Dame, Oregon. You mentioned a turning point earlier with Benson. The one I noted was USC's penalty on the missed Sappington field goal, which gave the Ducks a first down, and then Bryce Betcher, a 1-yard TD dive, put the Ducks up 28-14 at the half. That was a huge swing of momentum there. And, props to the Ducks. They won another one without Gary Bryant Jr. and DeCorian Moore.
Yep.
But USC hit pretty hard by the injury bug, too. Safeties Ramsey and Fitzgerald, both their starters, out for this game, and left tackle Elijah Page. And then I'm forgetting the young man's name, but their center also got hurt in this game. And then, of course, you don't have Wayman Jordan back there, the junkyard dog, even though, King Miller's been doing everything he can. He was bottled up quite effectively in this game. I mentioned it in the pregame. Key number 3 for me was Kenyon Sadiq. He was a big-time X factor. He had 6 catches, 72 yards, and 2 TDs in this game, helping lead the Ducks to their win. One thing we did note in this, you mentioned USC didn't run the ball, but we talked about how the Ducks secondary was number 1 in the country and hadn't really played a top-tier pass attack yet. They gave up 330 yards passing in this game. Now, again, some of that is affected by late-game situation when USC has to throw the ball, but Tanook Hines, 6 for 141 and a touchdown. Lane, 6 for 108. Lemon wasn't huge in the actual yardage category, but he had 3 TDs in this game, including 1 passing, and helping this guy here, Clinton, head to his college fantasy football championships. The Trojan playoff hopes are done. They need to refocus and not choke away this game against UCLA in the Victory Bell and finish the season 9-3, which is continued progress given season 1. And actually, if you go back 2 seasons ago, the last season in the Pac-12 for them, Oregon still needs to seal the deal, Ryan, against Washington, or else they become another 10-2 team in this cluster, of 10-2 teams who will be vying for playoff at-large spots.
Yeah, one of those being Michigan, who USC does have a win over. And I was kind of thinking about this, like, you win against UCLA next week, big win, you beat your crosstown rival. That obviously means something. You finish 9-3. It's an improvement of a season, man. Like, there's no getting around that. That's I think a lot of people thought that this was going to be a 7-8 win team coming into the year, myself included. You finish 9-3. That's a step in the right direction. You have a chance to get to 10 wins at the bowl game. And you do it getting the win against Michigan, who, we'll talk about them in a minute, but at worst is going to be a 10-3 or a 9-3 regular season team, excuse me. So big win there, obviously for the Trojans, but other than that, man, it feels like an empty calorie type of season for them. And you look at the schedule next year, like the biggest thing that USC has had trouble with in the Big Ten is going on the road to the Midwest. Clinton, they have 4 long road trips next year. I saw their schedule. It's like Indiana, Wisconsin, Rutgers, and someone else.
I believe it's Ohio State.
Might be Ohio State. Like, that's a fucking jacked up schedule. So if you're Lincoln
Which
Riley,
will be without Lemon and Lane, your top 2 pass catchers.
For sure. Yep. Say what you want about the recruiting class, but those 42 freshmen that you're signing are not going to be making that type of an impact for you next year. And I gotta tell you, man, I don't know that I'm super jacked about the ceiling of this USC program in the Big Ten if they can't figure out winning on the road.
Yeah, and you say Lincoln Riley, if else who? Like, looking at that schedule next year, I don't know what coach maybe other than
that's a Wisconsin 2025 schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you're staring down the barrel of potentially 7-5 again if you can't figure it out.
Yep,
that is a tough slate. You mentioned Wisconsin on there. We're going to get to Wisconsin. Apparently, they found the
Wisconsin is actually about to have a good season.
Yes, they're going to finish. I think they might win next week. They might finish over Minnesota and get 5 wins?
They might go 5-7. But we'll talk about
1 game shy of a bowl win. So it's not going to be easy for USC, and it's a bummer that you feel like you had it this year.
Yep.
If you don't stumble against Illinois.
No, you're still in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
These were not big games in a vacuum, but I think they were big games because what they set up. So I want to talk about Ohio State and Michigan next real briefly here. First, we had Ohio State 42, Rutgers 9. I'm not really sure what you're taking away from this game other than if Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are compromised and or can't play next week. I think this is going to be an interesting situation for Ohio State because this felt like a game where you knew you probably weren't going to have both either because you didn't need either to win. And it felt like a great opportunity for Julian Sand to start getting some chemistry with some other receivers just in case. Between him and Lincoln Keenholz, they had 14 completions in this game, and only 4 went to wide receivers. Now, it was a great game for Max Clare, and that certainly means something. But Clinton, um, what are they going to do out wide if one or two of these guys can't go? You know, they ran the ball well in this one, and I don't know if that was a concerted effort to try to continue to get the run game going, but everyone runs against Rutgers. This
Mhm.
felt like a great opportunity, whether it was, you know, I know Quincy Porter didn't play as well, so that doesn't help, but whether it's get Brandon Ennis going, I don't know, was but the Mylan Graham thing an injury thing, a discipline thing? Is he just not good thing? That was weird.
Mhm. So the biggest vibe I got was that Adolf Hitler got to play a bunch for them because it was senior day and he's a walk-on senior. You know, his last name's not Hitler. His name is Adolf though. And he did okay, but again, when you're
He's not beating Michigan?
no, he's a walk-on receiver. And is that something of Ohio State just knowing that they're that much better than Rutgers that we'll just let this walk-on senior play pretty much 4 quarters of the game? You know, Bryson Rogers didn't get a bunch of work in this game either. And Bryson Rogers has been their lead go-to guy since with Tate out on the other side and then Tate and Smith being out last week, or Smith the second half. It was a pretty sloppy, choppy first half for Ohio State's offense. Got to the goal line, probably should have another touchdown. Bo Jackson fumbled. He came back, scored the next drive. I think what they feel confident in is, Ryan, that they can just allow their defense to do whatever they want. Rutgers was held to 147 yards total. 56 of those yards came in the fourth quarter when Ohio State's starters were out. So Rutgers was held to what, 71 yards? Do the math there.
Sounds about right.
They held 1,000-yard rusher Raymond to 52 yards on 15 carries. Ohio State ran for their season best 254 and 4 TDs. Bo Jackson 110 and 2. So they're allowing the trenches and the defense to do the work. It's been a I am concerned. I was concerned going into the Michigan game regardless, Ryan. They've had their number for the past 4 years. There's potentially snow and wind in the forecast for Saturday.
Can confirm it is going to be disgusting here this weekend.
So, you know, that makes passing the ball much harder for both teams, but let alone when one team has 2 aliens at wide receiver who catch everything. It was nice that Ohio State found a relief valve in Max Clare. Best game of his Ohio State career so far, given that it's only been one season. But I'm nervous from the standpoint of I don't want Ryan Day to walk into this game again and just run up the middle. Now,
Shit
I
down
will give
his leg?
credit. I will give credit. They ran outside today. And maybe last year, if they would have just ran it 30 times up the gut and would have tried to use their speed on the outside, they might have had a different result. But you know, Ohio State, people are saying, oh, they played their worst game of the season. Like, I don't think they played their worst game of the season. They won 42-9. When they want to flex, they'll do it against teams like this. The question is, can they do it when they play when the season is for real? And it gets for real this week. And we're going to get to Michigan in a second. Michigan just played their best game of the season. Again, it's against a Maryland team who has not won since September, has no run game whatsoever. But Michigan played their best game. You can't take that away from them. So these two are on absolute collision course. You know, there's a lot on the line here. If Michigan wins, they maybe go to the playoff. Likely, in my opinion, they should. And Ohio State, they block Ohio State from going to the Big Ten championship and beat them for the 5th straight year. If Ohio State wins, they're going to the Big Ten championship, in which if they win, they will hold the number 1 seed in the playoff. And they block their rival and they from making the playoff, and they shut them up and block, again, of course, losing 5 in a row. So there's a ton on the line for this game for the people who said the expanded playoff to 12 would ruin this rivalry game. There's still a lot at stake here for both these teams, given that most years both of these teams should be no worse than 10-2. I know you can bank on that for Ohio State, but Michigan in name should at least be hovering 9-3, 10-2 as well. So I don't know for Ohio State, Ryan. My hands are up in the air. I'm not sure what I'm going to get. I do believe that Smith will play. It's interesting. They show shots of these two walking around, and then it looks like they have a limp, and then somebody else takes a video of them, and they're walking perfectly fine. So I don't know if these two are just trolling right now. I don't know if, you know, Smith early in the game walking around with no limp, and then the longer he stood there and he got cold, that you know, then tightens up this supposed quad contusion. that then makes it harder to walk. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see because Ryan Day's not going to give shit until that game kicks off. Or, well, you'll know probably at latest. I think it's a 10 or 11 a.m. Saturday that you can get the availability report out. So that's what you guys are going to have to wait for because he's not going to give anything. And they're not going to probably let the media see Smith and Tate really in like full-fledged practice because they're going to want to keep it under wraps. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect. We'll see what I pick on Wednesday or whenever the hell we do the Pick'em show.
And then we had Michigan 45, Maryland 20. Clinton, you alluded to that score. Maryland scored on the first driving game, and I thought, here we go again. But great job by the Michigan defense recovering and shutting this game down. Bryce Underwood was better, 16 of 23, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. For me, at least, still a bit concerning that outside of Andrew Marsh, they just don't have a legit guy out wide. We're back to 2 catches for 32 yards for Donovan McCulley, but maybe if one of the tight ends steps up, then at least you have something. Marlon Klein was okay in this game. They did not need Jordan Marshall. He did not play. Bryson Kudzall was okay. 20 carries, 100 yards on the dot, 3 touchdowns. More concerning, though, I believe Max Bredesen was seen after the game in a boot, maybe?
On crutches.
On crutches. That would be a significant loss for them. He is a fantastic blocker and kind of one of those glue guys, heartbeat of the team guys. Feed off of his energy.
Bryce Underwood was quoted saying he'll be fine. Sharon Moore said it doesn't look good. So somewhere in between, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I think you would be willing to bet that he's probably not playing this Saturday.
Yeah, if he's on crutches and a boot, that's probably not great. So that's a big loss for sure. But credit to Michigan for not looking ahead of Maryland team that again they've lost 7 straight games now. But it's a team that's played well for the most part, I think, this season. They did what they needed to do, and now you have, one game for the season. You win, and your chances of going to the playoff, I would say, are great. You lose, and you're going to the Outback Bowl, or whatever the fuck they're calling it these days. We'll break down this game a little bit more in depth. This is not the time nor the medium for it, but that'll obviously be our main talking point on Wednesday's preview show. But good job, Michigan, for setting up a game that has some serious stakes, man. It's nice that, especially in this expanded playoff, right? Because last year was the first year we got it. It did not have that type of juice. I think Ohio State was a 3-touchdown favorite going into this game, and it only became juicy as the game went along, and it became clear that Ryan Day and Chip Kelly had their head so far up each other's ass that they were going to lose. So this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, my one keynote for Michigan in this that could play into effect next week, because it has in the past 4 years with Ohio State, Michigan, is Michigan converted its first 7 third downs, Ryan, and they finished 12 of 14 on the game. What has Michigan done to be a thorn in Ohio State's side the past 4 years?
They stay on the field.
And they stay on the field. The best way to beat Ohio State is don't let the offense on the field, and you eventually wear the defense out. Michigan also did not punt in this game, and their only scoreless drives were a missed field goal in the end of both halves. Now, I think you have some concern about Dominic Zavada, who is usually Mr. Consistent, and he's very Mr. Inconsistent this year. So coming down, not saying Jaden Fielding is going to be any better because he shanked 2 of them last year against Michigan, in a game that's probably going to have winterish mix, if not snow and wind. That's not a great day for your kickers to be trotting out there, whether they're short or long. So props to Michigan. Unfortunately, Maryland, not only have you lost 7 in a row, you will now not have a winning season for the second year in a row.
At least the early forecast, Clinton, I can tell you it's going to change. It's just going to be cold and gray. It's not going to be snowing during the game. That'll change at least 3 times before now and then,
no kidding. As long as it doesn't rain. I think the players would rather play in the snow than rain.
Oh, fuck yeah. That 10 times out of 10.
Football's meant to be played outdoors, and you have to battle the elements. But don't make this shit rain. That's ugly for both teams.
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's talk about what was actually the game of the day, Clinton. Northwestern 38, Minnesota 35. This was awesome. Back and forth football. Did not have this on my bingo card. Both offenses looked incredible in this game. Both quarterbacks were really good. Drake Lindsey, 20 of 30 for 264 and 4 touchdowns. Preston Stone, his first 300-yard passing game of the season, 25 of 30 for 2 touchdowns. I thought Northwestern was going to run away with this one early because they were moving through Minnesota's defense fast and furious. They got up 10-0, and then Minnesota came storming back. And early in the second half, Northwestern muffed a punt, which led to a Minnesota touchdown to put them up 28-13. And at that point, I'm like, oh shit, I guess Minnesota's going to win this. But Preston Stone hit a couple big passes on the next drive. Minnesota missed a field goal. And then Preston Stone hit a big completion to start the following drive, a 30-yard pass, and Northwestern tied the game. What was a little surprising to me in this one, I know the Northwestern rush defense is pretty good. Darius Taylor did play the whole game, I do believe. He had a 27-yard rush, which accounted for nearly half of Minnesota's 59 rushing yards in this one. They cannot run the ball. That is a problem this year. Meanwhile, Northwestern ran for 220 yards as a team. Caleb Komolafe had 129 of those. Joseph Hyman had 47. And Clinton, how about Hayden Elegon II for Northwestern? He had 7 catches, 127 yards. Finally, another wide receiver other than Griffin Wilde to
also had a good game.
Yeah, he was throwing up ones, man. 11 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Good for Northwestern, man. Get your bowl game. You have a chance next week against Illinois to spoil in-state rivalry. We'll talk about Illinois in a little bit, but boy, that went from this is going to be a pretty good season to yikes, this isn't super great. But I don't know Preston Stone's eligibility situation. I don't know if this is a one and done for him, but he's kind of starting to come around a little bit, and we've talked about this with a couple other different quarterbacks. You get the 1-year grad transfer. Always takes a little bit of time for them to get comfortable. They start looking pretty good at the end of the year, and it's like, well, you're gone next year. But I think this is, a big win for Northwestern. David Braun came in 2023 after Pat Fitzgerald was dismissed in the summer, I think. He won Big Ten Coach of the Year. They took a step back last year, and there was a lot of talk about his job security, including from us coming into the season. Is this guy going to be a long-term fit for Northwestern? And here they are, back at a bowl game. I think at a program like Northwestern, that's what you look for. Get to a bowl game. Improve as the year goes along, and they look really good, man. Not to be confused with a playoff contender or anything, but they were fun. This was a fun game to watch. I was kind of locked in on this one in the early slate, and this was a good back and forth game.
They've been a very solid pain in the ass this year team for people. The keynote here, I almost said the Minnesota Wildcats. Good Lord. Northwestern Wildcats' first ever win in Wrigley, Ryan. They've had 8 tries since 1923. You mentioned the quarterbacks balled out. Buddy, Stone was on fire in the second half, 15 for 15 in the second half. You want to take your team to a win? Go 100% with 15 passes to help take you there. You already mentioned the rushing battle, but the total yardage battle was also a huge discrepancy, 525 to 323 in favor of the Wildcats. Jack Olson's the hero, man. 3 field goals, 33-yarder, the game clincher. I did say Parrish would make a play or two that would win Minnesota the game. He did not win the game, but he made 2 huge plays as a returner, including Minnesota's last drive, which gave them a chance to get into field goal range, which they unfortunately missed. And then shout out Javon Tracy. He's the first Gopher wide receiver with 3 receiving touchdowns since Rashad Bateman in 2019. Huge win for the Wildcats. Another stab in the back. Well, I didn't really stab in the back because they saw it coming. A stab in the gut for the Minnesota Golden Gophers after they get paddled to death by the Oregon Ducks. And then Northwestern just takes their soul. So next week versus a red-hot Wisconsin team shall be quite interesting.
Yeah, that one. A couple of these off under the radar Big Ten games got, I think, really interesting with some of the results we got this weekend. So I'm glad that they're kind of spread out. I think we got like 3 of them on Friday, 3 or 4 of them maybe on Friday. So it's going to be good viewing.
I think Nebraska and Iowa always are Fridays.
Always Friday at noon. So that's going to be a split screen with the Egg Bowl.
Not
I think
true. Last year was at night.
Oh, I thought it was at noon. Maybe I'm thinking of 2 years ago then. I know not that I'm going to be locked in on Indiana Purdue because that's going to be 70-0, but that one's Friday night as well.
In favor of Purdue? No, I'm just kidding.
God, could you imagine?
Can you imagine if the one Big Ten win Purdue gets this year and it's Indiana?
That would be insane. That would be pretty crazy.
Oh my God, the ceiling would fall down. Oregon with a win would be in the Big Ten championship. They need Ohio State or Indiana to lose to get in. So that's your scenario.
Let's talk next. Iowa 20, Michigan State 17. Clinton, woof. this game was something else.
Can I just start off by saying something here? I
Please
want to
do.
admit that I was wrong on 2 accounts in this game.
Okay.
I said Gronowski would throw for under 100 yards. That looked pretty damn good till the fourth quarter.
It looked great until the last drive.
And then I said it wouldn't matter who started at quarterback for Michigan State because they wouldn't do jack shit. And Milivojevic, or how you say his name, threw for 255 and 2 TDs,
I
one
mean,
pick, but
okay,
he played pretty
listen.
well.
Okay, I wouldn't say that was jack shit because it was on 42 attempts. They averaged
Yeah.
he averaged 6.1 yards per attempt. That's not fantastic. That's not super
I was
good.
envisioning him not completing, not even getting to
Okay.
150 yards.
He
Though,
was
when I had the
functional.
ball.
He was functional in the game. He was not spectacular, but Michigan State was leading this game 17-10 with 3 minutes and 42 seconds left. They got the ball back after an Iowa turnover on downs at the Michigan State 33. The Spartans went 3 plays, lost 5 yards, and they punted, which they allowed Caden Weegin to return 40 yards to their own 42. So it was a net of like 15 yards on the punt. Iowa gets a game-tying touchdown in 1 minute and 8 seconds. And then with 1 minute and 30 left in the game, they get this is Michigan State. So Michigan State gets the ball back. The game is tied. There's 1 minute 30 left. First play of the drive, they get a 12-yard pass, first down. Then they get an 8-yard pass. They're now at their own 37. They run for no gain, and then they throw an incomplete pass. Fourth down, they decide to punt. At least this time, they punted it out of bounds at the Iowa 21. The problem is, in the ensuing 41 seconds, they allowed Iowa to go 54 yards in 5 plays. This is where your over 100 or under 100 yards went bye-bye Clinton. They had Gronowski had a 19-yard and a 29-yard pass, and Drew Stevens nailed a 44-yard field goal at the gun to win this game. This was just gut-wrenching for Minnesota, Jesus Christ, one of those other M teams, Michigan State, but that's just, just kind of emblematic of the season that they have had. I mean, they played great on defense.
Bullet point I had in mind.
Played great defense for like 85% of this game. They held Iowa to 3.9 yards per carry on 39 rushes, but the last 3 minutes of the game, your defense and your special teams crumbles in crunch time, and you're staring at the barrel of a 3-9 season now.
Yeah. My biggest notes for this game, it's a full circle moment for Drew Stevens. Sorry, I'm going to cough real quick. All right, I'm back. Full circle moment for kicker Drew Stevens. And here's a quote for him. Believe it or not, I had missed one of those before, Stevens said. My senior game in high school, the last time I played at home, I missed a game-tying field goal. I put all the blame on me that we lost the game because of me. I just immediately went back to that moment, and I'm grateful that I got a chance to do it and make it right. So congratulations, Drew Stevens, hitting the game winner. Full circle moment for you. And Caden Weegin is now the school's all-time leader in returns for TDs, Ryan, with 6. And he's had his third punt return to the TD for the season, which is now tied for second all-time in Big Ten history single season.
Crazy.
So we talk about how Iowa wins games. They don't have an elite, prolific offense. Goodness sakes, but Kirk Ferentz wins games with defense and special teams. And this is why they are consistently a 8-win program every single year, and then why they will beat Nebraska next week.
Meanwhile, next week, Clinton, we have the Losing Streak Bowl at Ford Field in Detroit, a combined 15 games worth of losing streaks between Michigan State and Maryland. I wonder how much tickets are to that game. Not that I'm going to go, but anyway, not must-see TV there. We got a couple more games here. The other 3:30 game, Clinton, we don't really have to spend a lot of time talking about this one. Notre Dame 70, Syracuse 7.
We need to spend about as much time on this as how long the game lasted of interest, and when it was 21-0 before the damn offense even took the field.
So I'm just going to read you some stats, Clinton. If I didn't tell you the score and I said, all right, here's what happened. Syracuse got 2 more first downs than Notre Dame. They held Notre Dame to 67 passing yards, and they outpossessed Notre Dame more than 2-1. What do you think the final score would have been?
Just absurd. I turned this game on purely because I had CJ Carr fantasy rooting interest, and of course, watch Notre Dame since we cover them. And they went up 21-0, and I remember I texted you, it was like, CJ Carr's not even going to fucking score a point for me in this game because this game's going to be over before he ever gets to throw a pass.
You are correct. The game was over before CJ Carr threw a pass. He ended up throwing 9 passes in this game. He completed 5 of them
4
for
points.
49 yards and a touchdown. This game was literally over 5 minutes into the game. The second play from scrimmage, Joseph Filardi threw a pick six to Jalen Stroman. Next drive, Syracuse goes 3 and out. Jalen Stroman blocks the punt. It is returned by Luke Talich for a touchdown. And then the next drive for Syracuse, slightly more successful. They were able to gain 16 yards on 6 plays, but the 6th play was another pick six thrown to Leonard Moore. Notre Dame scored on their 2nd and 5th plays from scrimmage, a 45-yard touchdown run by Jeremiah Love, a 58-yard touchdown run by Jadarian Price, and they were up 42-0. 15 minutes and 4 seconds into this game. That is pretty much all we need to spend talking about this one. We talked a little bit about Love in the Role and Player of the Week segment. He had 171 yards, 3 touchdowns on only 8 carries. Price had 70 yards on only 4 carries. This was very much we're going to empty the bench game on senior day. And I watched the whole thing because I'm stupid.
I would have watched the whole thing too if it was Ohio State. It's your team. Of course you should watch it all.
Yep, it was fun.
Sorry, Jacob. I hope you didn't watch it all.
He he texted me at one point. He's like, "Don't you guys have some like Rudy guys that you can just throw out there?" I'm like, "I don't think it's gonna help." But yeah, this was yeah, I enjoyed that. But I'm sorry, Syracuse, you didn't deserve to be a part of that.
That was rough.
Blame the ACC. Penn State 37. Speaking of rough, man, holy smokes. Penn State 37, Nebraska 10. The backup QB bowl, and they actually both played okay in this game. But I got to give credit to you on this. I think you said something on Thursday. Maybe you said something at one point that maybe Penn State's got something in Ethan Grunkemeyer. Am I making that up?
No,
Am I giving you credit for a take you didn't have?
Maybe. I don't know. I have to go back and listen to it.
Anyway, they didn't ask him to do a shitload in this game, but he was incredibly efficient. He completed 11 of 12 passes for 181 yards and a touchdown. He had 5 different receivers for at least 20+ yard catch. So they were explosive in the pass game in this one. We already touched on the Katron Allen game, finishing his Penn State career in style with 160 yards. Now the program's all-time leading rusher. But Nick Singleton also a nice game. He had 7 carries, 44 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 51 yards on 3 catches receiving as well. The first drive for each team was kind of the tone setter in this one, man. Nebraska was moving the ball well, and they really moved the ball well throughout most of this game. They just couldn't finish drives, but they get 1st and 10 at the Penn State 11. They go 4 straight runs. They get stuffed on 4th down, and then Penn State goes 98 yards in 7 plays to score. Penn State scored on their first 5 drives of this game to climb to a 30-3 lead early in the 3rd quarter. But it was one of those games, Clinton, where it's kind of like the Service Academy game where you don't have a lot of opportunities with the ball. Nebraska only had 9 drives in this game. They had a touchdown, they had a field goal, they had 1 drive end at the end of the first half. They had a punt on a 4th and 14 that was just inside Penn State territory. And then they had 4 turnovers on downs. They had drives end at the Penn State.
5.
What was the 5th? Did I not count well?
I
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. Sorry, I can't count. But they ended drives without points at the Penn State 2, 38, and 12. That is not how you win a game, Clinton.
No, man. I made one note early in the game or on our Pick'em show Thursday. The Emmett Johnson show needed to continue, and it did with the 103 yards, 8 catches for 48. Seems about like he's the only plus on the Nebraska offense at this time since Dylan Raiola went down. You already mentioned my bullet point here about turning the ball over downs 5 times. They also punted numerous times, I believe. Penn State's offense and defense just showed up for senior day, man. You already mentioned Singleton, but Singleton also is in the Penn State record books. He now sits atop, tied with Saquon Barkley for all-time touchdowns in Penn State history with 43. So it was a record-setting night or record-tying night in 2 ways for Penn State. And then many Penn State players held up higher Terry Smith signs at the end of the game. So we'll see what happens. Penn State obviously has a big choice. They've been tied in saying that they're going to pry Kalen DeBoer away from Alabama. We've heard Eli Drinkwitz and Now it sounds like they could keep the players want him to keep Smith. I don't think that's what the AD is going to do. I'm not saying that he wouldn't deserve it, but it feels like Penn State wants the swing a little bigger, but they better shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, I think like I wonder if just I mean, they made their move first. I don't know if they realized how crazy this coaching carousel was going to get with everything that's happened since then, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of hurt them a little bit. So
Are they regretting firing James
I
Franklin,
don't know that they're
Ryan?
regretting firing James Franklin,
Will they
but
regret it?
I've seen some weird Kalen DeBoer stuff,
Uh-huh.
and I don't. It's like I mean, it's all message board innuendo, and you don't. I mean, you never know how true some of that really is, but that would certainly be interesting. But I mean, listen. So they fired Franklin after Northwestern. So Terry Smith's first game is at Kinnick. They lose by a point. They lose to Ohio State. I mean, there was no universe that they were winning that game. Um, they lose on a last second touchdown to Indiana. And now they've won two straight games. Again, not fantastic competition, but they are playing well. They're playing hard. I, I don't know that that would be the worst move.
Mm-hmm.
Probably keeps a
No.
lot of the recruiting class together, keeps a lot of the underclassmen
Well,
on your
a lot
roster.
of what they have left.
Yeah. Well, and then some of the guys who decommit to, or who decommitted if they're not following James Franklin to Virginia Tech, maybe they come back to Penn State with the continuity. You probably keep a lot of the guys on your roster in tow as well. I don't know. It could be that'll be an interesting one to kind of track over the next couple weeks. I'm excited to talk about this game, Clinton. What the fuck happened here? Wisconsin 27, Illinois 10. I did not have this shit on my bingo card at all. We
We didn't
have
have it on our bingo card 2 weeks ago when they knocked off Washington
I
either.
know you have Darian Dupree, who had one double-digit carry game this season, and since that double-digit carry game, which came on the 20th of September, he has had 19 rushes since then. Carries it 17 times in this game for 131 yards, two touchdowns, including an 84-yard touchdown on the second play of a drive in the second half to make it 17-7. Clinton, something I've noticed, a trend that I've picked up about Wisconsin is offensively, they're actually kind of good early in the game when the drives are scripted. They've moved the ball well a
Mm-hmm.
couple of times on the first drive of the game. Like the one against Michigan comes to mind. I think they had one a couple weeks ago too where they moved it pretty well. 16 plays, 80-yard touchdown drive that took 9 minutes and 30 seconds off of the clock after Illinois started the game by punting the first drive away. Other than that, man, their offense still. You had the first drive, you had the 83 or the 84-yard run by Dupree. The offense didn't really do a whole lot after that. You had the end of the first half. Illinois had a 30-yard punt from deep in their own territory that gave Wisconsin the ball in plus territory with a chance to get a field goal before half. They went 17 yards on 5 plays to set that one up. Wisconsin's last touchdown drive went for 14 yards after an Illinois turnover on downs. So it's not like they were moving the ball. Carter Smith he was 9 of 11 in this game for 75 yards. He also ran, I think it was 15 times for 17 yards. So not a super efficient day on the ground for him either. We talked Thursday that Wisconsin has a good run defense and Illinois cannot run. And how would that play out in this game? They did not. Illinois did not run the ball well. You thought Luke Altmaier would get his through the air, and he did a little bit. 21 of 35, 248 yards, but he didn't throw a touchdown. He was sacked 5 times, 3 of those by Daryl Peterson. Hell of a game for him. Yeah, man, this was certainly a hitch in the giddy up that I did not think we'd be talking about here today.
Yeah, you stole my big note. I was going to shout out Daryl Peterson, man, 3 of the 5 sacks, putting a lot of pressure on Luke Altmaier, and that changed the game. He was quoted in saying post game, I wanted us to keep that killer instinct. Let's finish them. We got them where we want them. Let's not be happy because we scored some touchdowns in the first half. And if you guys have rode with us and followed Wisconsin all year, that's been a hard thing for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pretty good first half, and I wanted to play a complete game, a 4-quarter game, and I think we did that tonight, and they absolutely did. Ryan, I found myself sitting there watching this game, just waiting, one, for Luke Altmaier to break my heart and beat me and not let me get into the college fantasy championship, but also just waiting for Wisconsin to collapse and lose the
Mm-hmm.
game.
They did. Held
And
tough.
they held tough. And they beat an Illini team that was very much trending at one point to 9-3. and that's not happening now. They're sitting at 7-4 on the season. Best they can do is 8-4, and they got a
Tough
Northwestern team that
Northwestern
likes to
team.
snake bite people
Mm-hmm.
coming in next week. So it's going to be really tough. Illinois, I believe, is home for that. So that is a senior day. Luke Altmaier, 3 years with the Illini, gets a nice send off. But don't be surprised if Northwestern clips them next week and gets themselves to 7-5 on the season. Um, congrats to Wisconsin. You won the Brett Bielema Bowl.
Oh God, yeah.
Luke Fickell is building some momentum into a year in which Badger faithful should be confident because the higher ups of Wisconsin have said they're going to be more willing to put money out there to get this team ready. And you are building confidence for a team that has had none for pretty much most of the season outside of the first 3 games. Hell of a finish to this season, man. Hell of a finish to this season. Let's see if Wisconsin can get 3 in a row. They started winning the 3. Now can they win 3 in a row to end their season with Minnesota next week?
Well, technically, it wouldn't be 3 in a row. It would be 3 or 4 because they lost to Indiana last week.
Oh, that doesn't count.
But anyway, I think like it's remarkable how what was it 3 weeks ago they said they were bringing Luke Fickell back, and everyone was like, "Why the fuck are you doing this? This is ridiculous. It's not working." And I mean, even if you just like look at now retrospectively looking back at the schedule, I mean, there were a couple of like what the fuck happened here in theirs with like the Maryland game comes to mind. Iowa, they just completely imploded. I don't think you can even extrapolate anything from Ohio State, but I get the rain probably helped a little bit, but they played Oregon tight. They played Indiana tighter than I thought that they would. They played Michigan pretty tight as well. I don't know, they really played Alabama tight. I think they got a garbage time touchdown in there, but there's a lot of really good teams on this schedule, and we're now sitting here. And I think if you asked a Wisconsin fan after the Oregon game and said, "You guys have a chance. You guys are going to go into the Minnesota game with a chance to get to 5-7." They would have been like, "Fuck yes, sign me up." It's
100%,
crazy. It's
100%
crazy how
agree.
quick this turned. Like,
And this
yeah.
propels yourself into something you can build this into next year with a
Oh
schedule that
yeah,
is more favorable.
absolutely.
Now you open with Notre Dame, and it's going to take a big effort to win that
Oh,
game. But
they're gonna get killed in that game.
if you
Sorry,
hit things right through the rest of your season, I think the first goal is to get yourself back to bowl eligibility
for sure.
and look like a football team for most of the season, and play Wisconsin football, not be bludgeoned to death.
It is a good Big Ten draw for them next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, and look, you went from, even after the Washington game, we're still sitting there like, all right, you fluked into a win, you're going to get to 3-9, whatever. This guy's still going into the season on the hottest of hot seats next year. You win this game now, and you finish the season with wins in 3 of your last 4 games. You beat your old head coach. You get a rivalry win against Minnesota. Now you're going into the offseason. You touched on it. Some legitimate momentum. Guys you can sell that to in the transfer portal. Maybe finish up your recruiting class strong. And it takes a little heat off of you heading into the next season where it's not, you're hot. Your seat's warm, but it's not red hot with the broiler turned up on you, which
Yeah.
is good. Definitely good for Wisconsin and Luke Fickell. Good for them. Good for them. They've been playing hard all year, and it's good to see them get rewarded. Let's finish up Clinton, Washington, 48, UCLA, 14. 3-0 at the end of the first quarter, but a fumble return for a touchdown for Washington capped a 17-point second quarter, and this was pretty much over at this point. They didn't need the stars.
No.
Jonah Coleman did play. He only carried 4 times for 6 yards. Adam Mohammed paced the ground game with 106 yards on 21 carries. Damon William had 56 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns on 6 carries, and he was okay through the air. 17 of 26, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns. But we got to give credit to this Washington defense, man. We talked about it on Thursday. They've low-key been pretty good statistically this year. They had Nico bottled up bad in this game. He was 16 for 26 for 69 yards. Not very nice. Luke Duncan had 81 yards in relief. And UCLA only had 57 rushing yards as a team in this game. Washington forced and recovered 3 fumbles. This is going to be a fun one with Oregon next week. I don't know. what kind of answers they're going to have for the Ducks defense, but I do think that defensively I don't know that they match up like fantastically, but I do think it will be a difficult task for Oregon offensively in this game, particularly in Husky Stadium, which is going to be loud.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, Denzel Boston was active for this game, but he didn't play, so they didn't need him. I assume that's to give him another week to be ready for the
Mhm.
Oregon game. And then, of course, Jonah Coleman, you gave him light touches, learned early that you didn't need him, that Muhammad could carry the way, and you're going to hit Coleman with another week of health coming against the Ducks this week. You know, first with UCLA, it's been a roller coaster of a season. It was fun when they beat Penn State and had some momentum there. Now they're back to realistic where they should be. They're not beating USC next week unless USC just absolutely folds after the Oregon loss with disappointment of not making the playoff. Do not see that happening. Washington finally wins a game on the road. Hooray! Here's the key. And looking at this game next week, that Washington has been better about in the past few weeks since the Michigan game is they let Damon Williams use his legs some. This game only 6 carries, but against Michigan they didn't use his legs at all,
Yep.
and it cost them. And if you want to stress this Ducks defense, you're gonna need to use
Mm-hmm.
Damon's legs
Yep.
in addition to Muhammad and Coleman to stress Oregon to be able to pull the upset. Again, Washington is at home. They are 26. Well, they've only lost one home game in the past 2 to 3 seasons, and that was to Ohio State. So Oregon's got something to prove to come into a nasty environment that's going to be ready to finish this season strong. It'll be senior day for the Husky players. It'll be sending out Jonah Coleman. There'll be Denzel Boston's going to be going to the draft. This is a monster chance for the Huskies. This game kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be worth watching when it's 20-0 at halftime. You just close your eyes and go to bed and get your sleep because you knew it was done. But again, as Ryan said, shout out the Husky defense. You are going to need it next week against the formidable Oregon run game to be able to help slow them down. And shout out to Grady Gross this year, Ryan. He hasn't been gross this year with his field goal kicking. 2 for 2 and 100% in this game. He's been much better this season, I believe, than last. Washington did us a favor. They set us up. You know, you could have not lost to Wisconsin, and Ryan's playoff dream previews could still be true. But you're 8-3. Ducks are 10-1. It's a battle for a playoff spot. If Washington can clip Oregon, they might keep their rival out.
Clinton, the real loser of this game was me because like a month ago, I spent like 45 minutes of my life arguing with someone on Twitter whether or not a UCLA team that won out would be in the playoff or not. And they've lost every game since then. You're muted, bud.
You jinxed them.
I guess. Well, I even said at the time, I'm like, this is stupid that we're having this argument. They're going to lose to Indiana this weekend. But if they beat Indiana and Ohio State and everyone else are going to the playoff, and they've lost every game since then. So
Yeah.
I think it was the guy you were arguing with about Coy Parrish. So thank you for
Brownie
wasting.
CFB for
Yeah.
engaging with us. Appreciate you.
Yeah. I regret having a conversation that I knew was going to be pointless, and it was. So maybe not as much momentum about Joffrey Lannister and Tim Skipper being on staff next year now that they're back to poo again. But
Yep.
good for Washington. Again, you know, I don't know. I think maybe some Jedfish to Florida stuff. You ever see those odd site things?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's his odds have upticked a little bit. I think they're still waiting on the Lane Kiffin noise to calm down. But you know, you were 7-win. Were they 7-6 last year?
I think
6-6 or no way. I just had their thing pulled up here. Hold on. I think they went 6-6 in the regular season, and then I don't remember what they did in their bowl game. Yeah, 6-7 last year. 32 wins better than last year. You have a chance to ruin your rival season now. So good second year for Jed Fish at Washington. It has a chance to be a great one. And this is going to be the focus of our Monday show tomorrow night. We are going to have another. What are you doing over there?
I was looking for my water. I forgot where I put
You
it.
were like up, down, all around. We're gonna have a another double-headed monster show for you guys tomorrow. We have Roman Tomashaw from Locked on Huskies and Dale Bliss from Watson Zoo joining us to break down the Oregon Washington game. Spend a little bit of time on that one tomorrow, since a lot of the Wednesday show will probably be spent on Clinton's game. And of course, the big one, Notre Dame, Stanford. Just kidding. So that'll be fun tomorrow. A lot of energy, a lot of fun facts that we'll have in that one. 9 p.m. Eastern time. Join us live on the YouTube or the Twitter stream. And then our Pick'em show this week will be Wednesday at 9 p.m. ish Eastern time. So that way you have us downloaded for your drive to Thanksgiving or when your crazy uncle is saying nonsensities about the chemtrails or God knows what, and you need to get the fuck out and you want to listen to something, we'll have that show available for you too. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We will see you all tomorrow night.